Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Black Pillars. And today is a very special episode. I don't say that for everybody. Today is a very special episode. I have my friend on here. I greatly appreciate you, Miss LaShawna Harris. Thank you very much for coming on for Conversations with Black Pillars.
It's my pleasure, Trey. I mean, Trey. I'm calling you Trey. See, Trey, Dre. It's my pleasure.
So for those who don't know, you will learn that this woman here, I put it all in there. Independent stylist, color specialist, certified master colorist, certified hair care pro. Did I miss anything?
Nah. Certified mommy and wife. Like, no.
Add those in there too.
Right.
Mother,
right.
wife, confidant, friend, therapist. All of it. Well, thank you. I appreciate you for coming on the show today. I created this show with people like you in mind. I know so many different people, so many different creative people, or just so many professional people that work in different professions that are inspirational to the people around them, because there's a lot of people out here that want to start their own business. There's a lot of people that want to excel in the things that's most passionate to them, and they need examples. And for you, I hold you as an example of somebody who went out and did something that they always wanted to do and excel at it and is killing it and doing it well. So thank you very much for doing this with me.
Thank you, Dre.
All right, so you just left the shop today. Before we get real formal, let's get a little informal. How has your day been today? I'm pretty sure you've been busy from sun up to sundown.
It was nonstop today. Time I got there until the time I left. And of course, my family had to finish me off with doing the 3 boys. So
listen, if mom's a hairstylist, guess what? I'm gonna get my hair done.
And that's how they think too. Mom, do I have to get on the books? So I can't just come? No, you can't.
All right. Well, I want to go back to the beginning. So my first question, it's kind of like everybody else's question. How did you get in your passion? How did your passion for hairstyling, coloring, how did it first start? What was the first manifestation of it? Like, was it the Barbie dolls? Was it high school, middle school? What like when did you say that this is what I want to do, or it's a possibility to do?
Well, I would say it started with baby dolls. I started out playing in my baby doll's hair. I was braiding it. What happened is I would take it to church. So, back in the day, you lived at church. You was at church for prayer and Bible band on Tuesday. Then you had another rehearsal on Thursday or Friday. Then you had Sunday service, but you had morning service. You stayed in the afternoon, and you had evening service. So I needed to be occupied. So I brought my baby doll because I didn't like to get in trouble. So I figured if I got my baby doll, I'm gonna sit down. I won't be going back and forth to the bathroom. I won't be talking, getting in trouble. So I would sit and braid my baby doll's hair during service the whole time. So by the time I got out of service, my baby doll always had a head full of braids.
It's all about not getting in trouble.
Exactly. So it worked. So with that, I started to realize I liked to mess in my baby doll's hair. So really, that's all I ever wanted a doll for, was for hair. So if it didn't have real hair or hair that I can do, like if it's that yarn hair, I didn't want it. I needed hair. I needed a doll with hair. So I would say that's where it started. And around like 11 years old, I started messing in my hair because at the age of 11, I moved with my dad, and I was no longer at home with my mom. And living with my dad, he didn't know how to take care of my hair. So he used to take me to the hair schools because my dad he's very frugal. I love my dad. He's very frugal. And so instead of taking me to a salon, he took me to a hair school. And so at the hair schools, it seemed like they could never do my hair right. I have thick hair and it was long. So when I left out of there, I looked like a puffy lion, and I hated it. And so I used to feel like, why can they do my hair like that other girl who walked out here with the, slim looking hair? Her wrap was, all together, but mine is big and frizzy. So I would go home after my dad would pick me up. I would go back home and I would redo my hair. And so one day my dad came home and he said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take you to what's that little place where you get all of the hair stuff from? I said, the beauty supply. He said, yeah. He said, I'm gonna take you there And I want you to get everything you need. He said, because I keep taking you to these hair appointments and you come back and redo your hair every time. He said, so I'm wasting my money.
Mm.
So he said, you know what? I'm gonna take you and get you what you need. So he took me to get what I needed. And so while I was in and out all of the things that I needed, I picked out hair books, like all the hair magazines. They make them now, but people don't really buy them anymore. And honestly, I've seen them in local beauty supplies in quite some time. But back then, it was all types of hair magazines in the beauty supplies. So I picked up all those hair magazines and I would study them. And I would find styles that I wanted on my hair. Or if it's somebody on TV that had a style that I liked, because back then I used to love Queen Latifah's hair on Living Single. So different styles that she would have, I would watch her styles. And when the show would go off, I would go sit down and try to do my hair like I seen it. Or if it was a style in the book, I tried to do my hair like the style in the book. And so what ended up happening was from doing my hair, copying stuff, adults would see my hair and they say, oh, your hair is really cute. Who did it? And I said, oh, I did. And they, you did that? Yeah. And I was 11 years old. And so they said, well, can you do that on my hair? And I said, yeah, I can. And so they would come to my dad's house and I started doing people's hair at 11. So at 11 years old, I was doing hair at home and I wasn't charging anybody. Grown women. And then of course, all of my friends in the neighborhood seen my hair and, you know, who did your hair, Shawna? I did. Well, can you do mine? So all my friends and cousins, because our block was very family oriented. So it was a bunch of us on the block that was together all the time. So some days I'm in the house burning up some hair, you know, doing some hair. So I knew from then that I really had a passion to do it and I wanted to get better at it. So I lived in my hair and my aunts used to talk about me all the time because I used to burn my forehead. So I always burned something because back in the day, we didn't have flat irons at first. You had curling irons. Mm-hmm. And so I had all the curling irons you plug in. And I was always trying to do something with my bang. And I would burn my forehead because I didn't have my sense of my awareness of, you know, my forehead to the, you know, where I'm holding the curling iron or whatever. So I always had a burn on my forehead or a burn on my neck from trying to curl down here. And I hit it by mistake. So they always talked on me. Shawna got a big old burn on her face. She didn't stay out of head. But now look at me.
Now look, hey, you ain't talking now.
I don't have no burns now. So yeah,
wow, I can only imagine that. Like an 11-year-old with people waiting out in the living room to get their hair, like grown women.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Your dad was probably like, girl, you about to pay some rent.
Well, so back then my daddy was a little pimp. So back then he was looking at people like, who's that? You know, and I'm like, daddy, no, you can't talk to her, daddy. You know, so he wasn't too overwhelmed in what I was doing. But back then I was a kid that liked to have my own money and I liked to do for myself if I could. So I was always looking for some type of hustle to make me some money. So back then dad was kind of used to me getting my own money because I would, back then, I don't know if you remember, but it was a store called the Warehouse Club. Well, the Warehouse Club is like a Sam's Club. And I think actually that might have been what Sam's Club was before. Maybe they changed their name or something. I don't know. But back in the day, it used to be a store called the Warehouse Club. And my dad would go there and do some of his shopping. And one day we were going through the aisles and I happened to see the containers that candy come in that be in the grocery stores and the gas stations and your local corner stores. And I'm like, is this where they get their stuff from? And so I looked at that and I asked my dad, I said, Daddy, can you buy me some of this candy? He said, no, little girl, because my dad was a professional bodybuilder as well as a police officer back then. So he lived in a powerhouse gym in Highland Park. And so he was really health conscious. And so when he dieted for his shows and stuff, he made me diet too. And so we didn't have fattening foods in our house. Sorry, I need to turn my phone off so you don't keep getting those dings in the background.
Sorry, it's just people booking spots. I ain't mad about
questions. So for my appointment tomorrow. But so back then I had asked my dad if he could buy me the candy. And so he was just like, well, no, because you're not gonna sit up and eat all that candy and get fat and this and that. I said, Daddy, I don't want the candy to eat it. I said, I want to sell it. I think I could sell this candy to the people in the neighborhood. And I said, you only got to buy it from me this time because the money I make off of selling it, I'm be able to buy my own candy the next time we come back. And so I did that for a while where I would go buy, I would figure out all the candy and cakes and, junk food that the kids in the neighborhood like, I would go and buy it because I knew they walked to the corner store. So like they could buy it from me. I built a store, so that I'll make sure they buy it from me. And that's how I always have money. My brothers used to get money from me when they have dates and they ask my dad if they can use the car. He say, yeah. And then they'll sneak into my room and be like, hey, throw me $20. You got 20? So I was going in my little stash, giving it to my older brother to go out on his dates. So I've always tried to find a way to make me some money. And so hair, by the time I started doing hair, that was just another thing added where my dad was just like, well, that's what she gonna do. She gonna find a way to make her some money. So he didn't really have much to say about it.
Dope. All right. So Pops is hitting on all your customers. You make your money. High school comes. Now, I'm pretty sure you're still in your bag at that point. You still booking clients. People still filling up the living room. Was there ever a point where there was another thing you could do? There was another pivot? There was another dream or aspiration that was in contention with hairstyling?
It was. So there was, at the time, there was a vocational school. It was Crockett. And so Crockett wasn't a high school at the time. They were just vocational. And that's where sometimes the middle schools will take students to get their hair done on a school day or whatever. And so I would go because that was my opportunity to steal some tricks. I'd watch people doing hair around me and like, oh, that's how they do that. So I could take it back. And so I found out that Crockett was going to transition to a high school. And so I was like, oh, that's perfect. I can go to high school and learn how to do hair at the same time. But I think it was something, it's been so long ago, but something was going on with either something that had to be paid for or something in that nature. And so I asked my dad, I'm like, well, can I do that and go to high school and do the hair thing? But he told me no. And the reason why he told me no at the time was because at that time I was a 3.8 student in school. Hey. And I had desires to be a lawyer. And that was like my ultimate goal. I never thought that I was going to do hair as a career. I knew I enjoyed it, but I never thought that that was going to be my career because I was determined to be a lawyer. And so when he found out that I wanted to go to hair school, he told me no. He said, if you get in hair school and you get out and start making that real money, you ain't going to want to go to college. And I'm like, yes, I will. I just still want to go and learn how to do hair. And I really want to do it. But he was adamant about it. He was like, if it needs to be paid for, if you can go for free, you can go. But if it's got to be paid for, I'm not doing it. And so he didn't. And so at that point, when I transitioned into high school, I moved back with my mom because that was the original arrangement. Because in the beginning, a quick little side story, but still ties in. I moved with my dad at the time that I did because when I was growing up, my dad wasn't present in my life like he should have been. And when I was 11 years old, my dad's mom, my grandmother, got deathly sick. And on her deathbed, my dad asked her, what can I do to make you happy? That you can leave here and you'd be happy with me. And she said, well, I want you to go get your daughter and take care of your daughter. Do right by her. And so at that point, my dad was such a mama's boy that he listened and he started spending time with me. And it started out to being like weekends where he would come get me for the weekend. And then eventually it transitioned to, he said, what you think about coming to stay with me? And so I told him, I would love that because I was having a ball, because for years I desired to be in my dad's life and I desired to have a relationship, with him. And to have it now, and then he's offering for me to live with him, and he was spoiling me to death because every weekend he came and got me, I ran those pockets. And so I'm like, I can do this every day instead of 2 times out the week. I can do this every day. So I'm like, sure. So I moved in with him, but the arrangement was with my mom that she would let me stay with him throughout middle school because I was in the 6th grade. And once I go into high school, I was supposed to go back with my mom. And so once I got out of the 8th grade, my mom had moved to Canada. My mother's Canadian. And so she moved back to Canada. And so when I was going into the 9th, at first I was going to stay here and not move back. But then I ended up moving back to Canada. And so when I moved over there, I just focused more on school at first and wasn't doing much with hair until I started looking at people's hair over there. And that's when I got back into doing hair.
I can fix you. I can fix you.
Because I was looking at hair like, that's not right. And you went to the salon, you need to come see me. Or I see a girl, she say she have a relaxer in her hair, and I'm like, your hair still look nappy, but you got a relaxer. I can do your hair better than that. Come see me. So I started doing hair in my auntie's basement.
There you go.
But that was the period that I kind of stopped, and hair was no longer like a major thing. It was something I enjoyed. And so I started out real slow at first, picking hair back up while I was over there, but it blew up again. And that's all I did for the 3 years that I lived in Canada is I did hair. I never had a job at all. For those 3.5 years that I lived in Canada, I didn't have a job. My job was hair. And that's how I made my money. I never punched the clock anywhere when I was there.
Dope. So you just been entrepreneuring it from the get-go.
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't realize it until, of course, especially now, even talking about it, I didn't realize it now that I'm talking to you about it. I'm like, man, I have been an entrepreneur for a long time. I just was thinking that it just started, in my adult life, but no, it's been going.
So when did the stylist outdo the lawyer?
The stylist outdid the lawyer. I would say, so I graduated from high school. I went off to University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and I was still at that time consistently seeking to be a lawyer. My father was he was one of the bodyguards for Dennis Archer when he was in office as the mayor of Detroit. And my dad used to brag about my grades and all of that. And so Dennis Archer asked to speak with me. It was like right towards the end of my senior year, because at 3.5 years of being in Canada, I wanted to graduate from here. So I moved back with my dad my last 6 months of high school. And that's where I met my husband.
Gotcha.
And so I moved back my last 6 months, and I went and sat and talked to Mayor Archer, and he asked what my plans were. And, he used to be an attorney. He was a judge and all of that. So he told me, well, I like what I see in your grades. He kind of ripped me to shreds in his office, because back then I was into jewelry. I love jewelry and long nails. So I had these really long nails. They were super busy back then. That's when people had a lot of nail art. Yeah. And so it was full of colorful nail art. I had a ring on every finger, and I had my big hoops on. I had a herringbone on. So, but here I am. I'm dressed in my so-called professional attire. I got my skirt and my, my blouse on with my heels, and I'm thinking I'm doing good,
You just accessorized out.
Yes, he ripped me into it. He said, let me tell you something. And I'll never forget it. He said, if you think that you can go into anybody's courtroom looking like that, he said, you better get all of that off. And I mean, he kept it real with me. I appreciate it. Now, looking back then, my feelings was hurt. And I was sitting there like, dang, he have to be so mean, but what he was trying to do was tell me that if this is where you want to go, this is what you got to do, and this is what you can't do. And in my mind, I was thinking like, I probably wouldn't have done this by then, but okay, he don't know that. So he's just taking what he sees and working with that. Yeah. So he connected me at the time, Vonda Evans and Saul Green, I think, were the attorney generals at the time. And so he connected me to them and had me spend time with them to kind of see a day in the life. Wow. And he was going to help me transition into U of M Law School if that's where I wanted to go. But I told you I met my husband my last 6 months of high school. So we became a couple, and I ended up only going to U of M because I didn't want to leave him. It's the truth.
It's the truth.
Because my original goal was,
So you gonna stand in your truth in this moment?
I am. I'm a realist. So I didn't want to leave him. And originally my desire was to go to Spelman. And but once he came in the picture, I'm like, oh, move to Atlanta, leave him. So I didn't even apply to Spelman. I applied to one school, and one school only. And that was Michigan. And one of the reasons why I applied to Michigan is because my dad was in love with Michigan, still loves Michigan football to this day. And so I felt like, well, I don't want him to get mad that I'm not going off to school, because really he didn't want me to go because I was a daddy's girl. But at the same time, he wanted me to pursue my dreams and do it right. And so knowing that I wanted to go to Spelman, I couldn't tell him that I don't want to go because of Cephas. So maybe I throw him off by saying, I want to go to this school because I know you love this school, you know, type thing. So that's what I did. It worked. And so the one school that I applied to, I got accepted. So fast forward, I'm still with Cephas at the time. Around my junior year, Cephas asked me to marry him. And we were supposed to get married in 2021. I was scheduled to graduate 2022 from undergrad. And we ended up getting married in 2000. And I got pregnant. I got pregnant after we got married. 6 months after we got married, I got pregnant with the twins. And I was still trying to finish out my senior year because that was my junior year. And so I was trying to finish out my senior year while being pregnant. And I was high risk. I was supposed to be on bed rest, was supposed to medically withdraw, but I didn't want to because I'm like, this is my senior year. I'm right here. Just let me finish, you know, and whatever. I was due the winter semester. I was due February. And I ended up having them in December of the fall semester. And so with that, I ended up coming out of college at the time because I had them. I couldn't go to class. So I lost my financial aid that was paying for family housing because Cephas and I stayed on campus in family housing. And so I came out of family housing. And because at that time, when financial aid stopped paying, we had to pay the rent of the family housing out of our own pockets. And so Cephas was working. I wasn't working because I was a student. And he said, you know what? We're not going to sit up here and pay $1,000 a month for rent when we can own a home. So we moved back to Detroit and stayed with my dad for about 4 months and saved up our money, and we bought our first home. And so at that point, I was more so at home mom. And then after a while, you know, we were super young. We were 19 and 20 when we got married. And we didn't really have anything. We didn't have much money at all. And so I figured, well, I need to go to work. I want to go to work. You know, I love money. That's number one. And I wanted to live a little better because it was real tight. It was real tight. We had two small children. Cephas was the only one working. And I know he wouldn't care about me, you know, giving away his income because that was years ago. But back then he was making like 25,000 a year. And that's all we had as a you know, income for our household. So I decided to go to work. And so for years, I kept trying to figure out, how can I get back to school to finish? How can I get back to school to finish? And so at the same time, I also was trying to figure out, how can we get more money in the house? And so I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go back to doing hair. I did enjoy doing hair. I miss hair or whatever, but I really didn't have the setup that I needed. And so one Mother's Day, my thoughtful husband, I love him to death, but he went out and bought me a, you know, I don't know if you remember the horseshoe with all the curling irons from back in the day.
Yeah.
So it was Mother's Day. And he told me, he said, I got a surprise for you. So he goes out of the house and he comes back in the house. He has a Stylist chair. He got me the horseshoe with all the curling irons and stove. And he said, Sean, I'm going to set up the basement for you so you could do hair in the basement. So I was like, really? Because our basement was finished in our first home. And he set the basement up. He got me a little, it was like a desk, but we made it into a station. And we found this, I don't know, I can't even remember where we got it from now that I think back on it. But I had this big slab mirror that he slapped up on top of the desk. So I had a mirror and, you know, my station with my irons, and I had a real chair. I had a Stylist chair, you know, I was pumping. Like, okay. So he set it up for me. And so from there, you know, I started doing hair. So I go to the beauty supply and buy stuff to stock it up and have it. And before I knew it, I worked in corporate America at the time. And so I would go to work with my hair done. And so now when people were like, you know, who did your hair? Your hair looks good. Oh, I did it. Did you do hair? Yeah, I do hair. So I started doing the people that I work with. And then from there, it just snowballed to where now I'm doing, you know, the people I work with, but at the time I didn't want strangers coming into my home. So I was like, you know, if you don't know the person that you're referring to me, then don't refer them because this is my home. And so everybody, all of my clients were connected in some way, shape, or form. So I had a bunch of church people and a bunch of, you know, co-workers coming to me. So I picked up with hair. And over the years, I did hair and worked corporate. So I would work from 6 a.m. to 3:30. I get off at 3:30, get home by 4, and I have clients waiting outside to get in my house. And so I would do hair from 4 to about 9:30 every day. And then Saturdays, I'm off with corporate. So I would get up at 6 in the morning and do hair from 6. At first, I used to do hair from 6 until, but at one point, my husband got frustrated with that because he felt like it's Saturday, we need family time, and we did a lot of things with our kids, but we were always getting a late start because I was doing hair. So I reduced my hours from 6 a.m. until I started doing 6 a.m. to 11. And so I would take my last client at 11, be done by like 1 o'clock, and then we'd have the rest of the day. So I did that for years, for a long, long time. And then finally, throughout that time, I kept feeling like I wanted to learn all the technicalities of hair. I wanted to be a true professional. I wanted to be able to have answers, real, the good answers, the right answers to questions with clients. And I wanted to have access to everything, but I couldn't figure out, how was I going to get to hair school? Because number one, I had a really good corporate job. So I'm like, I can't see myself quitting this job to go to hair school. I can't go to hair school after I get off work because then I can't do hair. So I couldn't really figure it out. And lo and behold, 2009, I did logistics. I worked in logistics. And so we did the logistics for Lear for their US, Mexico, and Canadian plants. And when they had that big automotive layoff in 2009, they laid me off, but called me back as a contract worker, and they paid more to be a contract worker. But the thing I was losing would be your benefits, your paid time, your vacation, all that. I didn't care about benefits because I never used theirs. I was always on CFISs. But I did like that if I got sick, I had sick days, or if my kids got sick, I had sick days, or if I needed to take a vacation, I got paid. So to lose that, I was like, well, they're paying me pretty good, so I'll take it, so I took it. And I did that for maybe about, I want to say 6 months. And then they pulled me in the office again and said they're going to have to do another layoff just for the numbers sake. And at the new year, they'll call people back. And they told me, we'll offer you even more money then. And so they laid me off. And when they got ready to lay off, they let me know, well, actually, we'll be able to call you back in like a week or two. We just need to lay you off for a second to do some things. So I'm like, okay. But then I thought about it. I said, you know what? This might be my chance to go to hair school because I've wanted to do it for years. And at that point, I had really wanted to get into it more and more because I had clients that were telling me, Shauna, you need to open up and take, more people, because I leave out here from getting my hair done. I'm getting stopped by several people, and they started counting, after a while, my clients will come to their hair appointments and say, Shauna, I just need to let you know how much money you missing. So I had hearing them count because they were telling me, like, Shauna, when I leave out of here, if I go somewhere, I'm talking, 3 to 5 people stop me and ask me who did my hair. And I can't refer them to you because you're not taking any strangers. And so you need to do something. So they really started getting on me about the money I was losing. But I wasn't willing to compromise my family and our safety to take in strangers. So when the whole layoff thing was happening and they were telling me about that next layoff, I said, you know what? Don't call me back. And I went ahead and applied to Paul Mitchell Hair School. Wow. Because I didn't want to go to Virginia Farrell or any of the typical hair salons, hair schools, nothing against them, but I wanted to be different and I wanted to offer different. I wanted to make myself valuable in the hair market because Detroit was full of hairstylists. So what was going to set me apart outside of maybe I can get them in and out? And that's something that they weren't used to because they lived in the salon unnecessarily. So I wanted to be more profitable and more valuable. And so that's why I chose Paul Mitchell. And so I went and talked to them and signed up and, registered. And once they accepted and everything and told me I had to get financial aid for it because of how expensive it was. Because, Virginia Farrell back in the day, my sister went there and I think she might have paid $6,000 or less to go there. And Paul Mitchell was $20,000. So, and that's why they called it the Harvard and Yale of hair school. Wow. And so for me, I can be a little bougie. So I wanted to go to the best. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll do what I got to do to go. So I got financial aid to go. And once everything was a go, and I really realized it was going to happen, I made up in my mind, I'm not going back to corporate America. I'm going to go to hair school. And so I sat down with my husband and I told him, I said, I just need you to make this sacrifice with me because I'm going to go to hair school and I'm still going to come home and do my clients and I'm going to need time to study. So can you carry the house? And I found out in hair school that um, if you don't miss any days, you can complete your 1,500 hours in 10 months. But that's if you have perfect attendance. But it's an hour game. So, and until you get your hours, that's how long it's going to take you to finish.
Yeah.
So I made up in my mind, I'm not going to miss any days and I'm gonna finish in 10 months. So I told Cephas, I said, listen, I just need you to carry the house for 10 months and bear with me. And I promise I'm gonna make it worth your while. When I come out of hair school, I'm gonna make money that you'll never regret doing this for me. And so he said, okay, so for 10 months, I didn't cook, I didn't clean, I didn't do no laundry. He did everything. He took care of the kids. And I would go to hair school for 8:30 in the morning. I get out at 4:30. I come straight home. I do hair. I get done doing hair. And then I would go in my room and I would study. Because even though it was hair school, for me, I'm competitive. And I like to feel like I'm always at the top of whatever I'm doing. So I won 100% on all of my exams. That's what I wanted. And if I got a 97, a 98, I took it again until I
Wow.
got my 100. And so when I graduated from Paul Mitchell, I graduated with an average of 101 and something and with perfect attendance. So it was plenty of nights that I sat up and sat in my bed with my textbook in my lap after doing hair all day and being in school because I was doing hair in school too. And I was fully booked in school. So I would go from, we had our classes and stuff like that in school, but they had opportunities after a while, once you reach a certain level, that after you go to your theory class, which was mandatory, you had to, then you can go out on the floor and do hair until your school day was over. And so I was fully booked every single day. I had 65 clients as a student. So I had the top, I had the most clients in the school during that time. And I had a lot of positions within school. So it was busy. School had me busy. Then I get home. And so plenty of nights I fell asleep with my textbook in my lap, sitting up in the bed, just knocked out because I couldn't take it no more. But I was determined that by the time I looked up, I was close to the finish line and close to being done in 10 months. And I happened to get sick one day in school. And I got sick so bad that I could barely stand up. And it was rough. And so I had them cancel all of, we called our clients guests at Paul Mitchell. So I had them cancel all my guests for that day. And I told them, I said, I'm gonna work on my MPAs. And those MPAs were like state requirements of you had to do this many curls, you had to do this many different services,
Gotcha.
to count towards your credit hours. And so I said, I'll work on MPAs today, but I'm not leaving. And they kept saying, LaShawna, you should go home. You don't look good. And so it was so bad to where I'm leaning on the wall. The wall is holding me up. I got my mannequin in front of me and I'm working on my mannequin. I'm like, I'm not going home. I'm not going home. And they're like, Shawna, you got to go. And it got to the point where I was doing so bad that they made me go home. They got some students together that I was close to. They had one drive my car and the other one follow in a car so that they can force me home. So my friend,
Wow.
one of my best friends was in school with me at the time, and she called Cephas. And once she told him, he told me, Shawna, you better get in that car. I'm crying. I gotta stay. And so he was like, Shawna, you want to die? Because you're gonna kill yourself. So I'm like, I don't want to die, but I'll be okay. I just need a few more hours to get through the day. So I'm begging and pleading. I'm crying. Like, I can't miss no days. I'm at the end. So finally, he got real angry with me and he was like, if you don't get in that car, I'm going to drive there and I'm going to pick you up out of that school and I will physically take you out of there if you don't leave. So I left. And that ended up making me miss about 4 hours of my school time. And so I was stressing about that. And I ended up talking to the school. And they told me at that point they had what you call outside events that you can attend, and they count towards hours. So I found me 4 hours worth of events. And thankfully, I only got to the first event. And the first event was a speakeasy downtown at oh God, I used to know the name of that place until now. It's a bar restaurant. It's a old school looking bar downtown. Speak Easy at Cliff Bells. And so I didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing. They told me I was going to do hair for a show. So you're just gonna do all the people that's in the show. You're gonna, do their hair, and it's gonna be you and a few other students from the school. So I'm like, okay. So I get there. Now, all of the future professionals from Paul Mitchell always made every show. Like nobody missed shows. If you signed up for it, they went. Well,
Mm-hmm.
this is my first time doing one of these shows, like one of these events.
Yeah.
Nobody showed up, Dre.
Wow.
Nobody showed up. So I'm there, and they end up telling me it's a 1920s event. So we need 1920s hair. So I'm
Wow.
like, I don't even know what the hair looked like in 1920. So I'm stressed out. I got all this pressure on me. And so I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to tell you what I did in my mind. I thought of the Three Stooges. So you remember, do you remember there was an episode where the Three Stooges, they did what made me think of them? So let me rewind. One of the ladies came in with her outfit on, and she was one of the first ones that had to be done. And so she
Mm-hmm.
had this dress on with these little fringes, hanging from them, and the little sequins, and she had this little headband on with the feather coming out of it. And she was like, I need a style so that I can wear this headpiece. And so I looked at her dress, and the first thing I thought about was a Three Stooges episode. Now, when I was growing up, my mom and family watched the Three Stooges. And so I grew up on the Three Stooges. And so I remembered an event that the Three Stooges they were waiters in that event. And it was like all the
Mm-hmm.
people were dressed up and they were messing up and making mistakes. But my mind went to that episode, and I was thinking about all the women, because they were the women whose hair I was doing, they were all Caucasian. And so I thought about all the women that I remember from that particular episode, how their hair looked with those types of dresses and those headbands. And so I was like, okay, so I'm just going to think about the Three Stooges episode and do the hair like I remember seeing the hair on those, in that episode. So that's what I did. And so with all that stress and pressure, I really wanted to pack up my stuff and leave. That's what I really wanted to do, because I'm like, I had to do
Because they left
everybody's
you
hair
there
by
all by yourself.
Yes,
Nobody
right. I had to
came.
do all of that by myself. And so I'm looking at all of these women. They're all frantic. Oh my God. So if it's just you, are you going to be able to do our hair? And on top of that, I was Black. So they're looking at me like, do you even know how to do our hair? And I'm like, yeah, hello. I go to Paul Mitchell. Yeah, I know how to do your
Listen,
hair.
I never thought of that in reverse. It's usually Black women going to the white hairstylists like, you don't know how to do my hair. Now, now
Exactly.
it's reversed.
Yes. And they're looking at me like, are you going to be able to do it right? Is our hair going to be right for this show? And so I'm trying to assure them, although at the same time, I'm ready to cry and leave. But the only thing in my mind is I need, this is part of the 4 hours that I need to make up. And it was only supposed to be like an hour or two. And
Oh, you
so
got those 4 hours in.
yeah. So I'm like, I got to do this. But at the same time, I'm like, but this ain't fair. I don't know what to do. I would have gleaned and leaned on, the other future professionals who were Caucasian. And I would have just followed their lead, watch what they're doing. Oh, she's doing that on her hair. Okay, I'll do that on my
Right.
hair. But I had nobody to copy. And I felt like I didn't want them to lose faith in me by me having to go to my phone and pull up pictures of 1920s hair.
When you first said it, that was the first thing I would have did. Google, Siri, hey Siri, bring
Right. I mean, looking back in retrospect,
1920s.
I would have done it. But the only reason why I didn't is because I didn't want them to take that and say, see, I knew you didn't know what to do. I
Mm.
was just a case. Okay. So needless to say, I knocked them all out. And when I got done, I was just ready to go home. And so they were so, excited about me getting through all of them. So they're like, stay and watch a little bit of the show and, have some drinks, but I didn't drink or anything. And they were like, and, we'll give you an appetizer, a few appetizers or whatever. But I was so like fried from everything that I tried to sit there for a minute. I sat there for maybe about a half hour, 45 minutes. And I was like, you know what? I need to go. I'm a little tired. So I left. Well, when the school found out that none of the future professionals showed up, they gave me my 4 hours for just that one event. And so I was able to knock my 4 hours out right then. So that was like, it made it worth it at that point. I'm like, okay, all of that hell was worth it because I got my 4 hours in one punch. So I did that.
Yeah.
And needless to say, I finished in 10 months flat. And so finishing at that point, that's when I'm like, okay, now I get to really pursue hair. And I made a vow to myself that the day that I finished hair school, I was never going to do hair at home again. So I told my clients just to give me, a couple of weeks. Well, that's another, I don't know if your question is going to come out where I'll answer
Sorry.
that. But that's when I'll just stop here and say that's when hair was number one. And at this point, I realized that I'm probably never going to go back to school and finish. That was the first thing. And then I'm like, if
Mm.
I do finish, my undergrad was psychology. So that wasn't even law school. I still would have to go to law school. You know, at this point in my life, I had all four of my children. So I'm like, you know, I knew that law school was very demanding
Yeah.
and it was going to take a lot of my time. And I didn't want to rob my family of that time. So I said, you know, I don't think I'll become that lawyer now. And I like just put it away out of my mind and just said, you know, I'm just going to make this the best. And, you know, Paul Mitchell opened me up to so many other things that you can do besides being behind the chair that I was like, well, I can be just as successful being a hairstylist as I would have been a lawyer if I just do what they told me I can do and if I
Right.
just follow their instructions. So at that point, hair was it.
That was
So
it.
sorry, I had to take a whole 20 years to tell you that. But
It's all right. People enjoy the backstory because, like I said in the beginning, it's somebody who's in that job right now that is the bread and butter, and they got another passion that they want to do, and they don't know how to do it, and that door has been open, but they don't want to step through it. You know what I'm
mm-hmm.
saying? Like you wanted to do it for so long, and you just had to wait for that door to swing open, and you step through it. So, so many times that people are presented with these opportunities, but they're too scared to walk through it. They're too scared
Mm-hmm.
to go pursue what their life has in store for them. So this is what this is for. To hear that on the other side, you made it. You did what you had to do with
Yeah.
4 kids, a husband, a
Yeah.
career, dreams and aspirations, and you still did it. So that's, I mean, if it's anything, it's inspiring.
Oh, good, good, good.
So, I want to ask you this question: what are some of the myths? Like, I'm pretty sure it's somebody here doing hair out their basement or in a shop, or I'm not sure the logistics, but and they say I don't have to go to hair school, I don't have to get certified, I don't have to do this, I don't have to do that. What did you gain from those experiences that you would say, go that path rather than not being licensed and whatnot?
Well, number one, being licensed opens you up to unlimited possibilities in this field because number one, if you well, I'm gonna back up a little bit further. I'm gonna say protection. Being able to be licensed is protection because in the event that you're unlicensed and you're doing somebody's hair,
Hold on, I'm losing you. Can you hear me?
you're gonna get. I can hear you. Am
I
I
didn't hear
back?
nothing you just said.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you see me?
Yeah, but you lagging.
Oh no, it did go out, but then it came back in. I can see you in real time.
Okay. Yeah, it was like first of all protection, and then after that you was just
Oh, okay. Am I back now though, or
yeah,
no?
you're good now.
Oh, okay. But so protection. So from the aspect of protection, if you ran into a problem with a client and let's say you either messed up their hair or maybe you didn't mess it up, but they're mad at you and they want to report you.
Right.
Well, if they contact state board, you're going to get fined like crazy. Number one, for being unlicensed.
Mm,
You're going to also get fined for not having a license to do hair in your home. So
mm,
not zoning that. So it's a bunch of legal issues that you can go into. But I think with our culture, and I'm speaking of the Black community, we don't if we don't like what somebody did to our hair, we're not likely to call state board. You know what I mean? You just blacklist that stylist. Like we don't
right.
go to her.
Yep.
She jacked my hair up, and you gonna take whoever you brought to that stylist with you. So that's the repercussion usually. But your income possibilities are unlimited if you put yourself in a professional situation. You open yourself up with the opportunity to be able to properly charge. Because if you're getting the $5.99, $6.99 shampoo from a local beauty supply, that anybody can get, you really can't charge properly. If you can't have access to the higher grade, tools that are available to professionals, you can't really open yourself up to being able to be valuable like you should
Yeah.
be. And then on top of that, education is that's the best thing you could ever gotten, because you're learning the technicalities of hair. When somebody comes to you and says, why is my hair doing this? what can you speak to? Yeah, in some ways you can speak to from your experience, because I did hair for years without a license, and at the same time there were still some questions I couldn't answer because I didn't really know the why. I knew that from my experience I noticed something repetitively where, okay, I noticed that and then I did that and I fixed it, but I really didn't know the whys behind it. So to me, you should always want to legitimize your craft, and learn everything that you can learn, to be the best that you could be. I
Yeah.
didn't want anything keeping me from being the best. So I felt like I need to make sure I'm educated. I need to make sure I have access to things that maybe somebody who's unlicensed doesn't have. I need to be able to go work wherever I want to work, to where if I wanted to go work in a different area, I don't have to worry about moving my home per se. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Because if you want a different type of clientele, most people that are going to pay good money to get their hair done, they don't want to come to your house. Not that clientele. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
They don't expect that.
Exactly. So it's so much. It's a lot that I can name as to why somebody should go and be licensed as opposed to just sticking with doing hair in your basement. You're killing yourself and you're limiting yourself, and you're gonna end up working harder and not smarter. And the one thing Paul Mitchell taught us is to work smarter and not harder. You
Hmm.
want to do a third of the people that it takes somebody else, more than that to make what you made off of that small group. You know what I mean? Because you're
Yeah.
working smarter. So I guess that's I guess that's the best answer I could probably give as to
Good.
why somebody should not settle for that.
Good. And then two, I would think that, well, I would know that, just over just looking like you were saying, 1920s, 2020, hair has changed, style has
Yeah.
changed, colors changed. How do you keep up with the trends? How do you make sure, how do you acclimate that to your clientele? How do you, when somebody comes to you like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? How do you keep ahead of, the curves and what's trendy nowadays?
Are you asking for me or are you
Yeah, just in general.
okay? Well, one thing, you got YouTube University. I don't really go on it too much because I get in my feelings a little bit about YouTube. And I think because it's very credible, but at the same time it can be it's not as credible in some instances because
Mhm.
anybody can make a YouTube channel. Anybody can go on there and say, this is how you do this, and it not be from a professional. You know
Gotcha.
what I mean? So that's an avenue people can take, but it's better to go to classes with a professional. You know what I mean? Especially on the level of how you may do hair, or how you service your clients. So for me, like I went to the IBS show in Vegas last year.
Mm.
I've also taken local classes locally where stylists may come in and do a class at a salon or something like that. I've also participated in hair shows here where they have like a day where professionals can come to like a convention center at a hotel, and they have all these different classes set up in different areas. One year I presented in one of those, as well as was able to
Oh,
attend other classes, but I did a color class in one of those. And I would like to do more of those, but that's how you stay up on it. Be aware of what is everybody wearing now. What celebrity is everybody mimicking? Because at one point, Rihanna's haircut, which is kind of like how my hair is now, when she cut her hair like that, everybody was going nuts. So
yeah,
everybody was getting that cut.
yeah.
Mind you, I had it before her, might I add. But so keeping up with social media, keeping up with the clients that you service, the people around you, and YouTube, of course, can kind of keep you up and go into the classes that are offered to professionals.
So, so I've been asking everybody this question. I don't know if you might get the reference or not. I don't know if you're a comic book movie watcher or not.
A little bit, a little bit. Let's see.
So in Infinity War,
Hmm.
Thanos was the bad guy,
Okay.
and he won. His whole thing was, snap his fingers, half of existence goes away, whatever. But the point that I want to make is he got what he needed, after he reached that point, he retired. He took off his armor. He sat down in his garden, and he just sat and reflected on what he just accomplished.
Okay.
So to flip that, what was the moment that you knew that you were right where you were needed to be, where you were destined to be? What was like, I know you just mentioned like presenting at the hair show, or, putting the keys to the door of your own thing, or, seeing a room full of people there for you. What was that moment? It was like, man, like, is emotional where this is where I'm supposed to be, and I'm happy.
Oh, I had a lot of those moments, but if I can think back to maybe the first time I felt that was, it was about, I was about 90 days out of hair school. And I had bought a software that I was running to keep track of my clients and services and stuff like that. So it kept track of how much I was making,
Mm-hmm.
um, and all of the other, specs that you need. And I happened to run a report after 90 days. I wanted to see how much did I make. And when I looked at the total, in 90 days, I had made $30,000.
Ooh,
Right. So I'm sorry, I gotta plug in the charger, and it
it's
was
okay.
$30,000 in 90 days. I said, I'm doing what I was supposed to do, because at that point, I made in 3 months what I was making in entry level, corporate America, at
Right.
one point. And it let me see that it's important to pursue your passion, because your passion is where you're going to make your money. Like if you punching a clock, yeah, you can aspire to do well and excel and climb the ladder. But when you're dealing with your passion, you're going to work even harder than that. But guess what, though? It's not work, because you love it. So you think about something you enjoy, you don't get enough. You know what I'm saying? You're going to go hard with it because it's not a
Mm-hmm.
job. It's what you enjoy. And so for me, that's when it showed me the importance of pursuing your passion. Because if you pursue your passion, all the financial freedoms that you were looking for, you're going to find them in your passion,
Yeah.
because you wake up every day not going to work. You going to play. And that's what Paul Mitchell told us. We wake up to play every day,
Wow.
because we don't wake up to a job. This ain't a job. If you here because it's a job, then you need to leave. Be here because this is your passion. And I took in everything they said to me when I was in school. I was a sponge, and I mean every sense of the word. I was a sponge. Whatever they talked about business wise, whatever they talked about, just everything. I took that. I'm gonna do that. Okay. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna do that. Because when they told me at orientation that having an education from Paul Mitchell, if you do what we tell you to do, you can be a six-figure earner.
Mm.
When they told me that, I said, okay, lead the way. I'm listening.
I'm
What you want me to do? And along with that, they told us, and be a yes person. Say yes to everything. So I'm like, okay. So they say, you want to take this class? Yes. You want to do this? Yes. You want to learn this? Yes. This is extra. This is not part of the curriculum. You want to do this? Yes. So with that, it I was playing. I was having fun,
that's
So
dope.
that's when I can say that was one of the first times that I realized I'm right where I'm supposed to be, because I couldn't have made this in 3 months working any other job. So
That's
this is
dope.
it.
This is it. I ain't going nowhere.
Nowhere, okay?
All right. Well, you're on the top of the mountain right now. And most people are comfortable. Most people get to that point where I'm gonna run this out. But I know you're not that type of person. So what's next? I know you just started your YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So like how much more expansion are you willing to do? How much further are you willing to take this thing?
Dre, to tell you the truth, I don't feel like I'm at the top of the mountain, and that's just keeping it real. I
Okay.
feel like I have not reached where I really desire to reach. And
There you
that's
go.
my whole truth. Like, I don't feel like I've arrived. Honestly, I'm always trying to figure out what can I do next, because I don't feel like I'm fulfilling the goals that I had.
Wow.
By this time, 10 years later, it's been 10 years now since I've been a professional. And I expected to see myself doing bigger things. Like I expected at this point, I got the headset on my head on stage, teaching, to thousands of professionals at
Your TED talk
thousands.
going on.
Yeah, so and I'm not there. But, to some, and even to you, which I'm grateful for, people look at me as being successful.
Oh yeah.
But Dre, I'm so hard on myself that I am still trying to grasp success, that I do have something to be proud of, because my standards are so high for myself. Sometimes it's not a good thing. And that's one thing on this little journey, which I talked about in my first blog that I posted, is just learning how to see things differently
Mm-hmm.
and searching myself, because I'm trying to learn how to celebrate me. Because out of all the things that I have done since being out of hair school, I haven't celebrated me yet, Dre, in 10 years.
Wow.
I looked at my salon that I opened the first time. I looked at that as a failure. I didn't look at that as being successful at all. You know, I looked at me being behind the chair as a failure, because I thought, I wasn't supposed to just be behind the chair.
Mm.
I was supposed to be a platform artist, traveling all around the world for Paul Mitchell or for some other high-end company, teaching hair. My name is supposed to be in lights by now.
Yeah.
I should have franchise salons around here, in other states and in other, local cities. And, so to not meet all of that, I felt like a failure.
Wow.
And it wasn't until maybe about, say about a year and a half ago, I was able to start looking at things, that were minute to me,
Mm.
and say that is a success, you know, because it was hard to really see that. And it still is to this day. I'm just learning how to speak differently and view things differently. And it's a constant battle daily for me. So right now, where I'm at is I'm trying to open myself up and come out of my comfort zone, because I'm shy. But for some reason, in certain elements, that shyness goes away. Like I noticed when I did the color class, I was nervous leading up to it, but once I hit that stage, I was ready to give what I had,
Yeah.
and help other stylists. And my passion to help them overrode me being nervous,
Gotcha.
but for the most part, I'm shy, and I'm kind of like held in. I'm not that person that likes to be center of attention. So
Mm-hmm.
like, and you've seen that with us getting together as groups. I don't like to bring all of the attention to me. I want to blend in with everybody. I want to have fun. I want to
Yeah.
mix and mingle, but I don't want all eyes to be on me. I don't have to be that focal point of anything. And so with that, I've held myself back from a lot of things. And I've been real closed in and not opening myself up to other possibilities. So now I'm trying to bring myself out of that, which is why I started the YouTube thing, because that's something I normally wouldn't have done. I would have been too nervous and too shy to do that. But I do really feel like now I'm ready to really fulfill my whole purpose and not part of it. We're gifted in a lot of areas, and I want to do that. I want to do what I'm set on this earth to do, and I want to do all the things that I love. And so now I'm trying to do this YouTube thing, at least get that out to where I'm dropping those nuggets that I wish somebody would have dropped for me,
Mm-hmm.
to get me going, to get me started. So I'm going to do a lot of speaking to, stylists, aspiring stylists, speaking to clients, all of that, women in general, about just doing you,
Yeah.
and finding your happiness and living in your truth, and all those things. So that's what's next for me right now. This is the first thing I'm doing. I have a couple of things on my bucket list that I need to complete. One of those things was years ago, I started out pursuing, I wanted to travel and teach color for a company. And some unfortunate things happened with me being at Paul Mitchell and doing it for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to seek other companies. And so Pravana is a color line that I use a lot. And so I got online with them at first, just innocently wanting to certify to learn more about their color line. And in doing that, they sent me a certificate that I passed and became a master colorist under
Hey.
their brand. So I had that. So when I was reading through all of that stuff, then I noticed, I said, hey, they have where I can sign up to be an educator.
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, well, I'll do that. So I pulled up the requirements, and my lovely counterpart that I'm trying to get rid of, Miss Mrs. Procrastination. Um, she came along for the ride and said, yeah, about that. You're going to work on that, sure.
Yeah,
And I put it off for, sad to say, about 7 years now. And the last part of that completion was just me getting 6 before and after photos. And I think it was like 2 or 3 recommendations from another stylist as to why I will be a good educator.
that's light work for you.
Exactly. But procrastination is very strong. So I put it off for a long time because what would end up happening is I had still had all my Paul Mitchell capes and stuff. And I didn't know a lot about Photoshop and all that stuff. So when I would take my before and afters, I would have the Paul Mitchell cape on the client in those pictures. And so I'm like, I can't send Pravana a picture of my before and after with a Paul Mitchell cape on the client. And
Yeah,
then back then when I was into that, I was still using a nice mixture of Paul Mitchell color line as well as Pravana. So I'm
gotcha.
like, I didn't have a full formula of just Pravana either on that client. So I'm like, I can't submit that. So I'm gonna set aside a day and, do all Pravana and, complete that, and never did it. So that's on my bucket list to actually pursue a company completely
There you go.
and see if I can become an educator for them. So this YouTube vlog is my right now, and my near future is pursuing another color line to teach for.
That's dope. Even with that too, like once your YouTube gets to a certain spot, not to a certain spot, you can do it now since you're certified in everything you do. You can reach out to them and get a brand deal. Be like, hey, during my videos, try Pravana. You know what I'm saying? Or
Right.
placement, it'll be there. So you already seem like you have that communication with them. It's money to be got out here. All you got to
You're
do is
right. I
ask.
didn't even think of that. That's something I'm gonna put on the list and look into. Hopefully, procrastination is not listening on the side. Like, okay.
It's the same. Like this is something. The one guy I interviewed, I talked to him about this. He was like, "I remember you telling me about this 5 years ago." So when you text me about this, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it because you've been talking about this for forever." Like I just had to get out of that self sabotage.
Yeah.
Procrastination is a form of self sabotage. So is perfectionism.
Yep.
Everything has to be perfect before I even start to do it. But the worst thing in the world is seeing somebody do something that you want to do and they're not doing it as good as you.
Yep. Yep.
It's like
Yep.
I'm
Trust me.
breaking it all the way down. Like that's wrong. That's wrong. They should have did this, but you know what they did different than you? They're actually doing it. So you have
Exactly.
no right to talk about anybody that's actually doing it while you still laying in wait to put your big boy drawers on and go do it yourself. So
Pretty much.
I'm trying to step out of that and to hear that you trying to do that too, even though you're the most successful person I know.
Oh,
It's good to know. So the first two that you dropped on the YouTube, you said there was I want to get to this. You dropped "Never Too Late to Begin Again" on the last episode. What did you mean by that? And then after that, we can start wrapping it up.
okay. What I meant by that is for me, I was always thinking of things that I wanted to do, but then thinking that it was too late because I waited too long and now I'm too old, or, now it's too much in my way. And, you have so many things that you put in the way as to why you can't, when it's never too late to begin again. As long as you got breath in your body and you woke up with a brand new day, you can begin that day. And if you don't do it that day, you got another day that as long as you keep waking up, those are those moments to begin again. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, when I had my little epiphany a year ago, I said I was gonna stop using the term "my little." Okay, it's another thing I'm working on, saying the right things. But when I had my moments of self-evaluation and just thinking about life, not taking it for granted, because I had that major surgery last year, and to
Mm-hmm.
hear how bad my health was during that time, and for the doctor to tell me that she didn't understand how I survived and how I was still breathing, for me, that let me know I should have been dead, but I'm still here. So
Uh,
that means I must have something to do, you know, and it was more confirmed for me. And at that point, I realized it's not too late for me to pursue those things that I desire. It's not too late for me to start over. So what? I've gotten this far into the game because there's some things that I felt like I should have done in the beginning of my career that I shouldn't be trying to do now because it's too late for all of that. I should have been
yeah,
done that. So,
yeah,
you kind of swipe it off like I can't do that now. But one day it finally hit and I said, it's not too late. It's never too late for me to begin again. As a stylist, I've accepted now that, I had this preconceived notion that stylist, after so many years, you're perfect. You don't really have anything to fix. You know everything,
mm,
and not that I was that, but I thought when I looked at other people, I thought that's what it meant. After that many years in the game, you
yeah,
know everything. There's not much else for you to learn. At that point, you coasting. So if it was something at this point that I didn't know, I chalked that up to it's too late for me to try to learn that now. I should have learned that, in the beginning, or I should have, done that. But I finally woke up one day and realized that if there's something that I realize I can be better at, I have a chance to go learn it.
yeah,
Who there's no application that you fill out before learning something that says, well, how long have you been doing this? Are you learning this in your first 5 years? Or if this is year 10, you're too late. It's nothing there to stop
yeah.
me. So I'm stopping myself with my rules and my standard of what should be. So I had to get rid of that and say, you know what? If maybe my shortcuts aren't finishing the way that I need them to finish, so
Mm-hmm.
what that I got to go and take a class to learn it and make it better? That's me realizing that I'm not perfect and I haven't arrived and that there's still something to learn. We can never stop learning. We can never stop evolving.
Yep.
So for me now, I'm transitioning my mind out of that. I'm stuck. That's over. It's nothing I can do about it, type thing. Even with clients, there's been clients over the years that maybe I didn't know as much as I know now. And so I made some mistakes on a client that maybe that might be the reason why they didn't come back. But I can't look at that and say, I'm just messed up. I can never do it right. No, I can say, you know what? I messed that up then. I'm going to fix that now. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And just keep starting over and keep seeing what I can do to be better. And as long as I'm on this earth, I'm going to keep trying every day to be a better me tomorrow than I was today. And it's never too late for me to start again. So I messed that up today. I had a bad day with a client. Okay. I didn't do that color right. I made this one mistake. I learned from that mistake. Okay, I'm going to begin again tomorrow and I'm going to try again. If that client doesn't come back, that's unfortunate. I wish I had a chance to make it right, or whatever. But if I don't, I'm going to begin again on the next person tomorrow. So that's really what I meant by it's never too late to begin again. Everybody has goals, they have dreams, they have desires, and we think sometimes because of our age that it's over for us. And I honestly was starting to feel that. Here I'm 40 years old. Some of the things that I want to do as a stylist, I feel like I'm getting too old for it now. Who's going to want to, do that with somebody my age? Am I going to appeal to the younger audiences anymore? I really started to think because when I was growing up looking at stylists that was my age, they've been in the game for 20 years, like me.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in the game for 20 years. And at that point, we were looking at those type of stylists like, I don't want her to do my hair. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that here I'm getting ready to enter into that realm that people younger are going to look at me and say, I don't want her to do my hair. She old, and want to go to that 20-year-old or 23-year-old because to me, to them, I'm their mother. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm trying to get rid of that. And that's what I meant for anybody else like me who feels like it's too late or you've wasted so many years not doing something, but you still desire it and you feel like you're too old or you're too far gone and it's too late. It's never too late to begin again. It's never too late to say, okay, if I still desire that, it's still a desire for a reason. So that means you have an opportunity to do it. So that's pretty much what I mean by that.
I just soaked all that in. You just applied to my life.
Oh, good.
All right. Well, this is my favorite part of the show.
Okay.
I call this part of the show flowers.
All right.
This is the part where I give my guests their flowers while they're here to hear
Oh,
them. So I just want you to know that I appreciate you coming on the show. And one thing that I always write it down, so everybody be like, "Why are you reading?" Like, I write it down so that way I don't miss nothing.
Okay.
I want you to know that your flowers are spreading happiness. So, as a person with a personal physical confidence issue, your profession is making people feel good about themselves on the outside. Your hands are in charge of giving joy. And even in that, your loyal customers appreciate your wisdom and advice in navigating their life on the inside. Thank you for spreading happiness, joy, and confidence, and just being overall a great person.
Oh, thanks, Jay. Don't make me cry.
Those are your flowers. They're greatly deserved. I mean, every time I'm around you, I feel tremendous. You make me feel great as a person.
Oh,
I'm just growing into this whole, every time he's like, "Oh, you losing weight? Oh, you looking good?" I'll be like, "Don't look at me, please. No, not today. I can't do it." I'm trying to accept compliments. Now I'm trying to move forward and trying to accept life and accept the joys that come with it.
mhm.
So I'm stepping into that too with you. So we're gonna step into it together. So I'm
Yep.
gonna be checking on you, and hopefully you be checking on
I
me.
am now. I
And
am.
whatever I come across, they be like, who do this? I got the perfect person for you. So I hope you receive that, you hear that,
I do.
because I just want you to know that you touch my life and bless my life, you and your whole family, your husband, your kids, and thank you for letting me be a part of that,
Oh,
and
thanks,
just
Jay.
thank you for being on the show overall.
Well, I appreciate you. One of the things that this is one of the walls I'm tearing down, I should say, in my life. When you said about accepting compliments, that's something I struggle with too. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? When people give me praise, it's hard for me to receive it because in my mind, there's always something I could have been better at, or I
Hmm.
feel like I'm not to what you're saying. Like maybe you just aren't paying attention because I'm not there. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to
Yeah.
do better with that. And, you know, hearing that that is a common struggle, for a lot of people. You just said it's a struggle for you, not knowing that that's a struggle for me too, Dre.
Hmm.
It really is. And just to be asked to do something like this is not something, it's something I desired. You know what I mean? I desired to be somebody that's sought after, somebody that somebody else feels like I need to get you where I'm at, to do something over here. But I
Yeah.
never thought that anybody looked at me that way. So for you to come along and say, hey, I want to interview you, it was just like, wow, really me? Is it because he don't have nobody else, type thing? Because it can't be because of what I'm doing, because I really ain't doing nothing. And that would honestly be my talk, about myself. Like I'm really not doing nothing. I'm really not that great. It's many other people that's doing better than me, so it's nothing that I can really talk about. It's nothing I can really get. I would honestly feel that way. So to be
Yeah.
asked to be on your show to be interviewed, it meant a lot. And that's why I felt like, okay, I got to do it. I can't not do it. I got to do this, because I don't know if I'm going to get this opportunity again, or if this will ever come. So I appreciate you, for that. And I admire your passion after, with going after what you're doing, to even have the passion and the drive to lose the weight like you did. That's amazing, Dre. Like, it's not easy. You know what I'm saying? I want to lose weight, but when I tell you to do what you did, I don't know if I can do it. You know what I'm saying? Because I want it, but I obviously don't want it bad enough, because that's the key. When you want something bad enough, you do it and you
Yeah.
see to it being done. I know that I'm capable of doing that because I did that with hair school. I wanted it and I did it until I got it done. But then
Yeah.
there's some areas in my life that I do desire some things, but I don't push like I should to do it to get it done. And for you
Yeah.
to do that, a person's appearance matters more than anything else, I think, to any person. If
Hmm.
you're not happy with yourself when you look in the mirror, you can't be happy with nothing else, you
Yeah.
know? And so for you to actually tackle that and win, that's major. You know what I mean? And I really admire that. And I hope that I can get the drive in me to get it done. Cause I got a couple people I'm tired of carrying around. They're a little heavy and I need them to go. but I ain't got the drive that I need. So I admire that. And to see you doing what you're doing with this is amazing. It's really good. I heard you before say different things. And I remember back when we were doing ECM, you had mentioned about doing things with broadcasting and stuff like that. And, how you went to school for it. I listen, I
Yeah.
pay attention, to things. And I heard that. And I could tell that that's something you wanted to do. But I also could tell that you too were battling with feeling adequate and feeling like you were enough to do
Yeah.
it. So to get to the point now where you're doing it, you're knocking it out too. You know what I'm saying? Just like you're saying I'm doing, you doing it too. And so I just wanted to throw some flowers back at you
Yeah.
and let you know that I see you and I see what you're doing. And I applaud you for hanging in there and getting it done. And just like you feel like I'm gonna blow up, I feel like you're gonna blow up, because to do this
Thank
on this level for other people, because your platform with your black pillars is not about you. It's you putting other people out there and putting other people on. I seen that when you first created your Instagram,
you.
and you had tagged me in that, and I just thought that that's great. I admire people who are able to think beyond themselves, because we live in a time that people care more about themselves and everybody else is secondary. And I think it's special people that can take themselves and push themselves out the way and say, I want to put you on. I want to get you out there and not looking for nothing. You feel good putting somebody else on.
Most
And
definitely.
so that's a very selfless act and very unselfish of you to be able to do that and push past your fears and your insecurities for somebody else. That's major. You're not pushing past them for your own gain. You're pushing past them for somebody else. And that makes it even more amazing. So I just want to salute you too.
Thank you. You just hijacked my whole segment.
Sorry. I'm sorry. See, I'm talking too much.
It's no, I wasn't expecting it. See, so now I gotta receive it, and I appreciate it. See, I'm
No
working on
problem.
me.
We are work in progress, okay?
We working in progress. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. If you're watching right now, these are all her tags below. Make sure you follow her on all social platforms, especially that YouTube. You definitely want to get the subscribers up, views up, because she's dropping nuggets and knowledge. If you enjoyed this episode today, make sure you follow her on all social medias. And thank you very much for joining me today on Conversations with Black Pillars.